Good afternoon, and welcome to Spirit Speaks on the World Today. I'm Reverend Jim Webb, the author of the book, The Soul of Prosperity, as well as multiple ebooks supporting the main book, The Soul of Prosperity. Those ebooks include 30 P's to Prosperity, Prosperity from A to Z, Creating Your Self Manifesting Vision Board, as well as my latest, Forgive Your Way to Prosperity. I serve as the senior minister of the Tacoma Metaphysical Chapel in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I'm a healer, an intuitive counselor, a coach, and a channel. The latter is what you're here to experience today. I channel a group of beings, the masters of planetary healing and transformation. Their task is to help us all to transform so that we can be conduits of light and healing, so that the earth can transform. So they come through me because I've been doing this now for over 20 years. They come through me as I release my own consciousness and allow them as energy to take over and to use my consciousness, my motor skills, my voice, my vocabulary, and things in my brain that they call the database to convey the energy that they want to convey. So it's no great mystery. It's a function of natural ability, my soul's decision to do this in this life, as well as decades of practice. So, what you'll find is that you might see my eyes close, you might see my expressions change. You might also see me moving around a little bit. You may see my third eye kind of blinking because just like the Quakers or the Shakers, they used to sit and wait for spirit to embrace them. And when spirit embraced the Quakers or the Shakers, the energy of spirit would move through them and their solid or seemingly solid body would be in resistance to that higher level energy. So they would quake and shake, which is how they got the names, the Quakers and the Shakers. Well, as this energy moves through me, you might find that you see me moving, shaking, quaking, or you might see my third eye kind of blinking. It's no big deal. So, what they'll do, I suspect, is give a little bit of a background on what they want to convey to us today. And then you can ask your questions. And you can ask your questions on any of the world events or situations that are happening that they discuss. So I hope you will find this helpful, a source of information, healing, and peace. And with that, I'm going to go out and let the masters do the rest.
Aren't you going to
Oh,
introduce me?
thank you. Yes.
No,
Before.
I'm just insignificant in the background.
Oh my, I was just getting ready to go out. I am so I just
Oh, that's okay. I'm Reverend Michael Mangus. I am Jim Webb's producer, and he gave me copy and images late, so I'm trying. so so anyhow, I will be relaying your messages to Jim while he is in state. So again, just feel free to go ahead. We take as many as we can, uh, and that again until the top of the hour. So when the masters open up for questions, you can even put your questions in now, and I will relay those to um, Jim when he asks for them through the masters. All right.
and and I messed up twice today, Michael. I
What?
messed up in that I was late getting the links to you for that you needed, and I also messed up in that Reverend Jane Batt submitted a number of questions in the comments section of my YouTube of the 23rd, my YouTube of last Monday's class.
Okay.
She submitted several questions. Hopefully, she'll be on and can type them in again.
Okay.
Let's hope.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Well, listen again. New day, new questions. So again, please feel free to ask away. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good. Greetings. It is our honor and pleasure to work with you in this way at this time. We would suggest, first of all, that you take a moment to receive the light, the healing, the love we would offer to you now. Just breathe. Just breathe. And as you breathe in this way, just recognize that you are not alone, nor are you ever alone. There is always a source of love and a force for love around you, within you, moving through you, and expressing through you and as you. You are not just your physical body and all the characteristics that that entails. You are a spiritual energy, a spiritual entity, and you are eternal, not ephemeral as a body is ephemeral. And that part of you, that highest part of you, is growing in prominence. It is growing as you become more aware of it as your true self, your highest self. And that is the part of you that responds to the energy that we offer you and is healed, expanded, and activated in a deeper way as a result of communions such as this. So that part of you already has the blessed assurance that all is well. That part of you must transmit this to your human mind, your human perception, your human experience. So we then would give you information, guidance, and perspective to help you do just that. We would begin globally and end locally in our talk with you today. Globally, you see tensions in the Middle East tiptoeing to war. In the Ukraine, Russia, you see negotiations for more lethal and more penetrating weaponry that could escalate the situation there. And to some of you, this is alarming. And you also see what you might call your American government feverishly negotiating to mitigate the potential damage these escalations might cause. Your task, once again, is to hold the space for peace. To the best of your ability, be not alarmed at the negative or damaging or destructive potentials here. Focus only on the here and now and not on the potentials that have not been made manifest. And this is actually advice that you can use in every aspect of your life. Focus not on what could be. Worry not about what could be. Focus on what is now and heal any part of you within that would otherwise support the creation of a painful, difficult future circumstance. And we would repeat that. Focus not on what could be. Focus not on the negative potentials. Focus instead on your feelings in the here and now, and focus the light that you received from God on that place within you that is worried, that is concerned, that is angry, that is doubtful, that is fearful. As you focus the light on this place within you, that anger, that doubt, that fear, that worry is contained and healed, and then it hasn't the potential to be made manifest or to contribute to manifestation. This is important advice for any and every situation that you face. Focus not on the potential negatives. Focus instead on the feelings of the moment. Heal the feelings of the moment that they do not escape from you and contribute to potential negatives. This is a strategy that can help keep you in peace no matter what. Now, regarding these global, what you would call hotspots that we discuss with you, your task is to focus on your role, your function as a channel of light. Your role, your function as a channel of light is to channel peace. So you think peace to yourself, you speak peace, you meditate, opening yourself to the peace that passes all understanding. And when you find that your opening has caused the peace of God to merge with the peace that God created as you, when these two are one, you become an effective channel, an effective conduit for peace. So you focus peace on the what you would call hot spots on the earth. And this is your task. Focus not on destructive potential, focus on the moment and calling forth God in the moment. Now, as we see it, humans often are, are compelled to go to the brink before pulling back. So, in the situation in Ukraine, it means getting more advanced weaponry that can penetrate Russian borders, thus hastening the conclusion of this conflict. Or that is their goal, without triggering a larger conflagration. In the Middle East, it means escalating the war in Lebanon to the degree that they can achieve their goal without triggering a conflagration. Now, what we see is that the light that you offer, the light the world offers, the light of God that you channel, and your role is important here, the light of God that you channel helps to balance these things so that military objectives are reached, yet the parties involved do not go over the tipping point, triggering a greater conflagration. That is how love can contain these situations. And your role here is extremely important. Now, regarding your elections, we would suggest again that you be not afraid. Hold your space of light and peace no matter what occurs. Worry not about whether this one is elected or that one is elected. Think not about your desired outcome. Think instead of your desired inner state. Think not of your desired outcome. Think instead of your desired inner state. And this too is important in manifesting all that you would choose to manifest. Think not of what you want to happen, but think instead of the inner state you choose to attain that would then draw your desire or something better. So in this case, think of the state of freedom that you want to continually enjoy. Think of the state of comfort and safety in knowing that your country is led by a steady hand that has an ultimately loving objective. Think of the state of knowing that your government is run competently to provide you with the infrastructure and the services necessary that warrant your what you call tax-paying dollars. Think about the state you would choose to attain because you are the beloved of God and you deserve to be loved, embraced, seen, heard, honored, respected. Think about this state. Place yourself in this state. Vibrate in this state. And you will cultivate this state that, to the degree possible, and to a very large degree, this is possible, that no matter who is elected, you will find that you can be at peace, for you will have cultivated a great deal of peace regardless of who is elected. Now, that being said, since we discussed things with you last, we mentioned that media attention would shift slightly, and certain polls would seem to, and media attention would focus on certain polls that seem to indicate that the course of the election had shifted, and that momentum built on one side was waning, while momentum resurging on the other side was actually resurging. There will be fluctuations such as this. We discussed this with you last week, that media attention would focus on a seeming resurgence of the candidate who seemed to be not gaining ground. But this is media focus because the media has an investment in keeping this race close and watching every development of it and making significance out of every development of it. We would say to you, be not swayed by this, be not worried by this, be not apprehensive, because the general trending as we see it right now will continue to trend and swing to a certain candidate that has had a surprising late entry into your presidential race. So be not dismayed by headlines that are simply designed to get you to what you call click. Be not dismayed by fluctuations in the energy. And be not dismayed regardless of the outcome, even if the candidate that is not of your choice is the candidate who is elected. Be not afraid. You are safe as the holy beloved of God, and no thing can hurt you. And as you hold this space more and more, as you hold the space of yourself as an eternal being more and more, as you hold the space of your whole self as a full energy, as a full entity, and as you hold yourself as an energy field through which God flows, it will matter much less to you who is elected as you hold yourself in your highest self. And this is what we would discuss with you today about this. And we would then open this session to any questions you might have at this time.
Thank you, Masters. And our first question comes from Don Luckett. He said, can you comment on the possibility that different world leaders could try to influence our election?
Yes, this is happening. This is happening. And in the next several weeks, we see several potential occurrences here. We see several more indictments of foreign players interfering in what you might call your domestic election. We see collaboration between law enforcement agencies to bring these malign players to justice. And we see these plots exposed in ways to help Americans discern between foreign disinformation and the truth. Now, this is designed to help beings to continually hone their own intuitive abilities, and we would explain this. Your soul knows the truth, even if your eyes deceive you or are cast upon something else. Your soul knows the truth. Now, all of the disinformation being flung at Americans, we are viewing the image of monkeys in the zoo flinging their poo, monkeys in the zoo flinging their poo. So, certain disinformation is flung at Americans. However, your gut knows what is true and is impervious to this disinformation. There will be tools on the internet to point this out more clearly, but the most important tool is a tool installed in the human solar plexus, their own truth detector. Now, why are some people swayed by disinformation? They are swayed by disinformation because within them there is an energy that yearns to feel alienated and angry. And this energy within them must come up for healing. And so these types of different disinformation bring energy up for healing. And ultimately, this is useful. In the short run, it makes for an angry electorate. But even those who are angry will realize, as we see it in the third and fourth week of what you call October, there are those Americans who will have what you might call an epiphany. An epiphany of realizing that certain things they held to be true are not. And this awakening of some Americans because of the triggers that they receive through disinformation, this awakening will impact the election, dampening the participation of certain voters who have been dug in to their own information burrow due to disinformation. Many will become disillusioned when certain truths come out and when they feel and sense certain truths. You will see more of this in what you call the third or fourth week in October. But what you are seeing now, you are seeing the beginning of this. For there was recently a piece of disinformation about a certain group in a certain city, in human terms, eating cats and dogs. Now, this was debunked, and the ridiculousness and the outrageousness of this was exposed, causing many beings to wonder what other type of disinformation that perhaps was a little less obviously false have they been fed. So you see this trend already beginning, but by the third or fourth week in October, you will find that there has been a bit of disgruntlement or disenchantment because certain Americans realize they have been fed disinformation. And this is how the disinformation will tend to backfire on those who peddle in disinformation. And this is what we would say to you regarding this question.
Thank you, Masters. We also have another question from Gottfried, who said, "Will the Palestinians ever have their own homeland?"
We would discuss this. First of all, each and every one of you, as you choose, allow the healing light and God's will for peace to flow to you and through you. And just breathe in this healing light. Breathe in this healing light. And when you're ready, share it with the Middle East in a burst of energy. We see right now the potential for the outline of a radical new all encompassing plan that involves multiple countries supporting the rebuilding of Gaza and the rebuilding of certain areas of the Israel Lebanon border. And we see the potential for certain lands that are not occupied by Israeli soldiers, but by global peacekeeping soldiers to counterbalance both local unrest and foreign agitation in these Arab areas. So these peacekeepers, if you will, from a global organization will support the resettlement of Gaza and the stability of the border with Israel that in southern Lebanon. And so we do see the likelihood within 2 years of the implementation of such a security force that is not fighting for one or the other, but is there to keep the peace as Gaza and certain Arab territories are reconstituted, rebuilt in a plan similar to your American Marshall Plan, and as new government structures are put in place to allow the people their own will instead of allowing the people to be represented by those who do not have the people's greatest good at heart. So there will be, as we see it, the intention for Palestinian land in self rule. Now, these peacekeepers that are being explored as a possible way to establish a legal framework with some degree of neutrality and to de escalate tensions between Israel and its neighbors. This is a radical idea that is being pursued real time, and is it is possible that this would evolve. And this is what we would say to you.
Thank you again, Masters. And we have a question from Jane Bat, who said, the angel of ego has a divine task. Is it almost complete? And she also asked, can the light reveal the true health status of the angel of ego?
We would work with this. As we stated earlier in this broadcast, humans have a wonderfully interesting knack for going right to the edge of the abyss before drawing back, before opening to light. So, the object lessons this being came to teach the earth are almost complete. As we see it, this being began the process with all of the eyes of the world on him. And such is the case. But the world and your country lets out a collective sigh of fatigue here. And there are no new lessons. There is only the lesson of a being so who seems to have been born with everything humans would want, yet clearly is challenged by inner feelings of inadequacy that cause overcompensation. And this ego energy and its destructiveness is and has been on full display. At this time, the being's actions are repetitive, and the being is seen clearly and as a reflection of the wounded ego within each human. So, as humans are prompted and guided to heal their own wounded egos, and as light, such as the light you channel here and now, as this light subtly enters the energy fields of those around you, shifting them, and as they shift others, as the earth becomes more enlightened, the shift is effectuated, and therefore the trigger is no longer necessary. So at this time, we see the being moving to irrelevance, most likely, and only being in the news due to legal proceedings. And this is what we would say.
Thank you again, Masters. We also have another question from Jane Bat. She says, is there a divine need for some arm wrestling after November 5th?
What we see in this moment is that one of your political parties is moving past what you might call your election date and already looking at reconstituting itself. As such, there is less of an appetite in this party for what you might call post election mayhem and drama. So we find in the channel's consciousness a possibility, a probability, a likelihood that would best be described as a house of cards imploding upon itself. So this political party is likely to, in the channel's consciousness, we find that that party put together a document in 2012 after a loss and said they had to evolve and appeal to a broader cross segment of the country's demographics in order to remain viable. They did not do that, but they will dust off this old report and update it and begin the process of reconstituting themselves based on what they would call their traditional values of limiting the role of government, foreign engagement, and practical, pragmatic governing for the greater good of all. You see, what they are finding is what has been true all along. The party that is more practical and pragmatic is the party that voters tend to embrace. When a party becomes impractical in its ideology, the public is less likely to embrace that party. So, for example, in your current political landscape, there is a party that at this time clings to a position regarding prenatal health, prenatal care, and biological choice that is ideological yet impractical. And that party, by many, is seen as an outlier as it relates to being congruent with the will of the people. And we see the people being resistant to this party, for it has become the less practical or less pragmatic party. This tendency to be less pragmatic and more ideological, many humans see do not solve their problems, but amplify their problems. And so this party will do what you might call a post-election post-mortem, just as they did in 2012. The conclusions will be quite similar. And they realize they have squandered 12 years and a great deal of trust and political capital, only to be in the same place. So you will find that their focus will shift, for they will become more pragmatic. They will look for a way to, in a sense, fold so that as we see it, there are discussions that center around, and we would use the human terminology here. They will look at ways to simply take abortion off the table so that it no longer is a millstone around their necks. And we are viewing those actual words coming out in the meeting. let's get this off the table. How can we get this off the table so it no longer is a millstone around our necks? And thus they will become more practical, more pragmatic, and thus more viable once again. But the what you would call the house of cards is likely to either collapse or become so shaky that they realize they do not have a governing coalition going forward. And this is what we see at this time.
Thank you again, Masters. And we have a final question. The question is, have we passed the tipping point in climate change?
Yes. The focus will eventually become clear, and that is damage mitigation. The focus will become clear, mitigating the disruptions caused by massive displacement due to climate change. And there will be technologies being developed that will help here. We are viewing several things. One thing we are viewing is a new way to provide energy that changes the the energy consumption of energy production and radically changes the cost equation of energy, which then radically changes the cost equation of the price of goods and services. This generates a great deal of wealth that is passed on to consumers who pay less for goods and services, and enough wealth that the income inequalities, which have also reached a similar tipping point, will become mitigated. This new technology, however, also provides ways to accommodate global migration due to certain areas being less habitable. And there are certain technologies that will stave off some of the more dire effects over the next 30 to 40 years. So the answer is yes. At this time, you on the earth have reached a tipping point. In terms of the the awareness of the expensive and devastating effects of climate change, these are lost on no one. And although the worst imaginable may be mitigated due to technological shifts, there has been unleashed a likelihood of rather massive global migration due to certain areas becoming less habitable. But economic shifts and a more equal distribution of economic resources and more economic resources would cause this to be absorbed relatively painlessly, because the income inequalities that trigger resistance to such migration will be mitigated. In other words, we would actually restate this in English, human English. Anytime there is migration, When there is migration to a place that is under economic stress, there is great resistance and division. But there will be migration, but there will not be that dire economic stress, and thus less division, and thus an easier way to accommodate the effects of global migration due to climate change. Now, we would actually relate this back to your current country at this current time. The reason that you are seeing such what you might call anger, hatred, and rage about migrants is because your countrymen are feeling stressed due to income inequality. When the income inequality has not passed, is more rebalanced due to changes in cost structures, due to changes in the way energy is delivered. When this occurs, there is less stress and thus less resistance to migration. This is what we would say about this.
Thank you, Masters. And that are all the questions that we have for this evening.
Good. We would then suggest that you take a moment, one and all, to receive a final blessing. And share it with your world. Be blessed and in God forever. Hey.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you. How
All
you doing?
right. So at the last minute, a certain someone sent me things to put up because they were not on his website. So I wonder who that is. Maybe I. So which one would you like to? Which announcement would you like to make first?
Spirit speaks.
Okay. Well, let me go to. Okay. Technical messing around in the back room. Please stand by. Okay.
Okay.
And there you go.
And there you go. Self mastery. What Spirit has been impressing upon us most recently is that because the earth has evolved to such a degree, you are all masters. And this 8-week class will take you deeper into your own personal mastery. Spirit will guide you into a deeper level of self love, self actualization, self awareness of yourself as an eternal being, self responsibility, and you will feel your mastery. You will become more of your highest self. You will operate from the perspective of your highest self more consistently as a result. And also as a result, by default, you will be less in the fear-based ego, and you will experience the radical forgiveness that enables you to allow all of your good. So you will be shifted up to the next level of your experience of mastery while on the earth. So then, what are you going to do with that mastery? Which is the Thursday night class that begins. Uh, I'm beginning on October 21st and October 24th. And then it's called Manifesting with Mastery. And this Manifesting with Mastery, which is my Thursday night course, is based on the old scripture. Oh, I'm losing it now because I just came out of channeling. But there was an old scripture about they're giving me the Elizabeth Hay one instead. I alone can't do it, but the Christ within me can. That's what Catherine Ponder said. And the scripture said, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. They're both saying the same thing, which is when you are in your highest state of mastery, that which seemed difficult to manifest from your human perspective is easy to manifest from the perspective of your mastery. So the Thursday night class is 8 weeks of manifesting from the perspective of your mastery, manifesting through mastery. So you will continually do exercises and have experiences where you get into that higher state of being. And from that higher state of being, you manifest easily and effortlessly that which you found to be difficult to manifest from your human state of being. So I just announced these classes right now. The only folks who know it instead of you are the folks in my existing classes because they get first dibs. And so they get to register, but you can be right behind them. If you're interested, text me, check out my website, but not yet because I haven't loaded these on my website yet. But text me if you're interested in these classes, and you can sign up before they sell out. And that's what I'm doing starting October 21st and October 24th. That's what we're doing.
Oh, wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
And
Spirit-
let me just say too that again, if you're even thinking about taking these, now is the time to act. All of these classes sell out very fast. I mean, like sometime this week to next week. Within the first 10 days, they sell out. So please, if you're even thinking about it, get in contact with Reverend Jim and he will give you the rest of the information.
Yes, they do sell out because I have to limit the capacity so that everyone has a quality experience. So please, if it is of interest to you, sooner rather than later.
So, on behalf of Reverend Jim Webb, this is Reverend Michael Mangus, and we're going to wish you a wonderful and blessed week.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Michael Mangus. And thank you for your patience with a certain person. Everyone have a wonderful day.